Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tao of the Day. I am so grateful to be here. I did a talk this morning as part of the Love Wave, and I'm going to be contributing to the Love Wave through Tao of the Day as well. Not as an official part, but I am just going to continue to spread the love here on Wisdom. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. What is Tao of the Day, you may ask? Well, Tao of the Day, if you haven't listened before, is me asking you to pick a number between 1 and 81. Why? Because there are 81 verses in the Tao and in the Tao Te Ching. And the Tao Te Ching is translates to sort of the canon of reason, the collection of writings that make up what it means to live a reasonable life. If you want to live a reasonable life, the best way to do that is to let go of your expectations of others, let go of the need for others to change for you. I've been writing my own rendition of the Tao, and I have been looking at a number of different translations in order to do that. Today, I am going to look at number 21 in Stephen Mitchell's Tao, and I might look at another Tao as well, at another translation of the Tao to look at that. And we'll see how this all wraps up and how it combines with the love wave that's also going on here on Wisdom. If you're listening to me now, if you flip through the channels, you'll find the love wave. I participated in that 5 o'clock this morning Central for 2 hours, and we spread some love. And so I'd love for you to check those guys out as well. I'm here asking you to step up and pick a number between 1 and 81 if you'd like. If you have a number between 1 and 81, I would love to read it. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to look at 21 for myself today, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Every day is a new day for the Tao, and so if you're dealing with anything in your life, I would love for you to step up and pick a number. Here we go with 21. The master keeps her mind always at one with Tao. That is what gives her her radiance. The Tao is ungraspable. How can her mind be at one with it? Because she doesn't cling to ideas. The Tao is dark and unfathomable. How can it make her radiant? Because she lets it. Since before time and space were, the Tao is. It is beyond is and is not. How do I know this is true? I look inside myself and see. So we have this first section which just makes a statement, right? It makes a statement that the master, whoever that is, and whoever gets to reach the state of understanding or being with the Tao to such a degree that they are able to keep their mind at one always with it, and it will give that person radiance. Now, the next two sections are wait, if the Tao is ungraspable, how can she be at one with it? And if the Tao is dark and unfathomable in any way, how can it make her radiant? How can these things happen? Well, the Tao is ungraspable, but because she doesn't cling to grasping, she can be at one with it. And the Tao is dark and unfathomable, and because she allows that inability to be fathomed, that darkness that is in the Tao, she allows that to be what it is. It will allow her to be what she is, and she is born. We all are born radiant, and so we are able to touch the radiance that we are through the dark, unfathomable depths of Tao. So then it goes into, since before time and space were, the Tao is. This is how you can understand, how you can take one step towards being a master. Since before the time and space were, the Tao is always. It always is. Time doesn't exist. Tao is. Tao exists. It's all that exists. It is beyond is and is not. It is beyond this idea that you have, this box that you put is and is not into. How do I know this is true? I look inside myself and see. So deep inside myself, there lies a master of Tao, and that is you. And as you look inside yourself and you strip away all the things that are not you, right? You are not your voice. You are not your work. You are not your body. You are not any of things. When you strip away all of that stuff, then you can see that the Tao is, and it is you. So let's look at another translation of this, because this is what I'm doing. The Te follows Tao. Tao is like a dream, invisible, intangible, obscure. It is invisible, yet there is a form to it. It is intangible, yet there is a feel to it. It is obscure, yet there is a method to it. The method is true, and so there are signs of it. From ancient times until now, the signs have never ceased, by which we can see the beginning. How can I know the nature of the beginning? By these signs. Melanie's going to join us as I'm reading 21. I'm going to ask Melanie for a number, hopefully. Melanie, how are you?
I'm doing well. Did you invite me to talk? That was nice of you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I literally, I'm like technically challenged. So when it says, invited you to talk, I just wanted to make sure I was doing it the right way.
You are doing it the right way. You are definitely doing it the right way. So this is Tao of the Day.
I love
And
Taoism.
Tao, well, that's wonderful. So I asked my guests to pick a number between 1 and 81. And then we read that verse of the Tao and we just kind of go through it.
Okay. My number is 3.
3. Let's go look at number 3. So I'm going to read the Stephen Mitchell translation, which was translated in the late 80s. This is really a quintessential, easy sort of translation, and it's really beautifully put. So it says, if you overesteem great men, people will become powerless. If you overvalue possessions, people will begin to steal. The master leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve. He helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those who think they know. Practice not doing, and everything will fall into place.
I agree 100%.
Yes, yes,
Well, from what
indeed.
what I learned from studying Taoism, I relate mostly to Buddhist principles. I think it's just a healthy way of living. It's like wisdom, beyond wisdom. And I really simplified my life by getting rid of material things, thoughts that didn't matter. And in doing so, because, losing, when you have all these things or all these possessions or whatever, losing them is suffering. So it's better to have minimal things, you know what I mean? So when like thoughts, so if you make someone their esteem higher or whatever, you're actually like taking away like their humility, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, what other things did you say? I could probably comment on it with
Yeah,
one,
we'll go.
but
Well, I always like to kind of get an overview of what your thoughts are, and then we'll go through it line by line. So, like you said, like the first line here is, if you overesteem great men, people become powerless. And I think that's really what you addressed.
yeah, because when look, you cannot you cannot put someone on a ladder and then complain when you have a crick in your neck from looking up at them.
Ooh,
People will relate to you more when you are humble and when you are on their level. They just will.
yeah.
Power is not being above people. You are more powerful when you can relate to people on their level. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Absolutely. And then it goes on to say, if you overvalue possessions, people begin to steal. And this is right along the same lines there.
Exactly, because you're giving possessions way too much importance than they deserve. And so it clouds people's judgment of the values of possessions, which are not alone, they're not very valuable. So if people perceive possessions as being overvalued, it will change their their desire and their need to possess them for themselves. And it will change their morals, and they will want to steal because they think things are more valuable than they really are.
Absolutely. That is so true. As this continues, which says, the master leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve.
Well, I like the master leads by emptying their minds. I think a master leads by listening. I think listening is probably one of the most difficult things that we all need to learn to do, but we all think we have the ability to do, but
Mm.
it's not so easy. So when you listen to people's thoughts and you empty their minds, you create a more space for them to gather new ideas and to learn more information and to develop their own way of thinking. You know what I mean? It's kind of like cleaning out, the hard drive on your computer.
Yeah.
It will work better when you make room for more space. It will work better and it will grow.
Yeah. And I'd like to add, this last part, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve. When you get rid of your own desires for yourself and you really look at this moment as it is, you can be here and you can be present with this moment rather than the moment that you thought it was going to be.
Absolutely. I think mindfulness and being present in the moment is something that I think it's essential to our beings. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And Yeah, I mean, I try to practice it. There are a lot of distractions. Thoughts are very distracting. And if you can just like acknowledge them for what they are and let them go by. But like right now, before I got your message, I was trying to be mindful, just drinking a cup of coffee and
Yeah.
not, you know what I mean? And not thinking about anything else except the way the mug felt. Hot enough to drink, but not too hot where, my mouth would be on fire. And
Hmm.
just like tasting the flavors of it and everything. Just being present in the moment is so, so important. And it's really not practiced much anymore. And it's difficult to do. It really is difficult to do because it really requires you to appreciate what you're doing in that moment. I actually had tea with a monk, and I don't know whether this was a true story or not, but he said it was a tea ceremony, and he said if you can drink a cup of tea with a clear mind, only focusing on the tea, then you will have reached enlightenment.
Right. Yeah. Well, enlightenment. That's fun. It's so as we continue, it says he helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those who think that they know. And that's interesting as you talk about the tea. Like when you're sipping tea, it's like you know what tea tastes like. You've had this tea before. And so why be present with it? And that's the thing. It's if you lost the ability to remember ever having drunk tea, and you were drinking tea for the first time right now, what would that be like? Can you be present with this moment, with this cup of tea? Because you've actually never had this cup of tea before.
That is very interesting. So you're saying that you can appreciate things more if you let your perceptions or your old experiences go and you do something and it's novel for the first time. You're
Right.
100% right.
Yeah.
100% right.
And as this states, he helps people lose everything they know. And what you know about a cup of coffee and about the mug that you've held 1,000 times before, that could all be different right now. Can you recognize? And it's not about comparing, so it's not about what is different, but can you recognize that you're holding this now rather than holding it again.
That's very deep. Um, yeah. I mean, I never really looked at it from that perspective, but I think that's a wonderful way to look at it because it allows you to appreciate things as if it was for the first time. I mean, it's so funny. I'm 50 years old and I've had a cat since I'm a year old. And I think to myself, every time I pet my cat, that just wonderful feeling, the rhythmic breathing, the up and down, and they're so soft. And I think to myself, oh my God, what if I never experienced this before? What would the first time be like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And and as this continues, everything, they lose all of your desire as well, your desire to know. And then create confusion in those who think that they know.
But
You
see,
know?
that's the most interesting part
Hmm.
because is it that we truly know? I mean, or are we always questioning things?
Right.
Or are perceptions always changing? Are we 100% certain of things?
That's right.
I don't think so.
Well, we can't be, because this moment is obviously different than the last, but we assume or presume that it is. And so, and that's what's so great. The master helps people, he helps us by confusing us, by creating confusion in those who think they know. And that way, when we can just question, oh, is this cup of tea different than the last? Well, I'm different than the last time I had a cup of tea because maybe I, even if I had gone to the bathroom in between two cups of tea, that's different. I am now having a different experience.
Well, I'm having a different experience with you because when I spoke to you earlier on, you were asking, what love was, and I
Mm.
appreciate you gave me the platform because wow, I'm pretty good at chatting it up, and so you allowed me to do that, and then I got this invite to talk to you again. So I thought I kind of knew you as someone who just like inquired and allowed people, the opportunity to speak their truth. But then I experienced you, and that's what I thought I knew. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And then I experienced you a second time, and you're full of wisdom, and you're full of the desire to know how people interpret different things. So I experienced you again, but for the first time.
Yeah. And now this moment is completely new.
Yep. And the next time I speak to you, it'll be completely new.
Right. And, when we can do that, even with our husbands or wives or friends or neighbors, when we can walk into that room and be like, you are a completely different person at this moment. Let me learn about you right now.
I love that. I
When we
love
can
that.
do that, it becomes so freeing because, then we can stop thinking about the future. So often we get into, we're talking to someone and we think, oh, like I'm done talking to you. It's just like, oh no, let's look at them right now at this moment. Who are they? And who are we? And this verse 3 ends with practice not doing, and everything will fall into place.
Well,
Practice not knowing, practice not doing what you normally do. Practice not just be here and have this. Don't do anything with that cup of tea and see what it is.
well, I start my mornings off and I just sit. I put on, some really, mellow, Zen music, and I just practice doing nothing, just being here. And nothing is more peaceful than anything.
And it
You know what I
always
mean?
and it always collapses to something eventually. Eventually
Exactly.
you find yourself doing something, but maybe you don't even know how you came up with the idea to do it in the first place. Maybe it just happen to happen.
Absolutely. You're a pleasure to speak to, by the way.
Oh, well,
It's
thank you
nice
so
to
much.
speak to someone, yeah, who who can really think, who is interested. I think you and I see a likeness between us because I feel like I get up every day because I have something to learn. I love learning from people more than anything. I think their experiences, I'm so grateful if they share them with me because it helps me learn about them. But I wake up every day to learn. So I need to empty some of these preconceived notions that are in my brain, and the chaos so I can grow as an individual.
Yeah, those notions, those presumptions, those perceptions, they can haunt us for a long, long time. But as we notice them, as we become aware of them, we can let them go.
Well, it was a pleasure talking to you.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
as many of you know, I am writing my own rendition of the Tao, and I'm going to read number 3 as I imagine it from all of the readings that I have done. I've come up with one that I like quite a bit. Praising the status of Praising the status one can achieve will chastise those who don't achieve it. Praising a possession that can be owned will condemn those who don't own it. When nothing around arouses competition, people will be at peace. The master leads by not defining status or possession. She weakens the ambition of those around her, which toughens their resolve to be as they are. By individuals releasing their ambition, everything falls into place. So that's how I imagine 3 at this moment. This idea that if we can release our ambition, if we can release desire, then things will fall into place for us. I'm going to go ahead and read 21 from this Legge translation. I think it's Thomas Legge or James Legge, or James Legge. I don't know how to pronounce it. But it was written a long time ago, late 1800s, turn of the century. So the grandest forms of active force from Tao come, their only source. The grandest forms of active force from Tao come, their only source. Who can of Tao the nature tell? Our sight it flies, our touch as well. Eluding sight, eluding touch, the forms of things, all in it crouch. I guess you can pronounce that touch and then crouch. Eluding instead of touch, we'll pronounce it touch so we can have a nice eluding sight, eluding touch. The forms of things all in it crouch. Eluding touch, eluding sight. There are their semblance all right. Profound it is, dark and obscure. Things, essences, all there endure. Those essences the truth enfold of what, when seen, shall then be told. Now it is so, 'twas so of old. Its name, what passes not away, so in their beautiful array, things form and never know decay. How know I that it is so, with all the beauties of existing things, by this nature of the Tao? That's like when we start getting into rhyme and things, it starts to get a little obscure. So let's read the Isabel Mears 21. She's obscure sometimes as well. The complete manifestation of things visible proceeds only from life. So, just saying, the complete manifestation of things visible proceeds only from life. So, you need life in order to have a manifestation. In its nature, life is always coming into activity. Yet, in itself, it eludes our sight and touch. Okay? Life is always coming into action, yet life itself just eludes us, eluding sight, eluding touch. Within it are hid the plane of created things. So even though you can't see it, and even though you can't touch it, in it lies the whole existence of all that is created, eluding touch, eluding sight. Within it are hid all created beings. Even though you can't touch it, even though you can't see it, it is holding everything that's ever been created. It is profound, it is obscure. Within it hid the pure spirit. So it is deep and obscure, and within it is the spirit. It is pure spirit, enfolding truth. Within it is hid an infallible witness, free of old until now. Its name remains unchanged. Through its doorway comes the universe into existence. How do I know that the universe is coming to full perfection through life? The witness is life itself. So yeah, this is a beautiful way of saying it. This Tao is bigger than anything you can imagine, and if you try to touch it, it's going to elude you. If you try to see it, is going to hide from you. It's like when you see those things in the corner of your eyes and you glance over to kind of get a glimpse of it, and it's gone. And it's like, and then you go back to what you were doing, and there it is again, and you glance and it's gone. It's like, I used to have these experiences as a child, much more than I do now, but it's always like just out of the corner of your eye. Sometimes you hear it, and you can't make it out. And the more you pay attention to it, the more it disappears. It's a beautiful experience to see in the dark. When I was on my dark retreat, like things came to me. It was something that was beautiful, but it was also mysterious. And within the mystery is everything. So being able to be here now, being able to be within the mystery and accept this moment, however it presents itself. You may judge this moment to be fallible. You may judge this moment to be, like wrong because you are stepping to it with some expectation, or you're stepping to it with some idea of what it's supposed to be. But it's not supposed to be anything. You're just supposed to experience it. Now, as we talk about stillness, I think that's 15 or 16. Let me see if I can I read it this morning I think it might be 16. Stillness and integration. Yeah, 16. We talk about stillness. You have to learn from your experience. And so you have an action, and then you become still and you integrate that action, not through your mind, but just through Tao, just through being. And I'll read this 16 to you from my translation. Being empty of mind is of the highest order and is to be passionately guarded. You have to guard your empty mind. If you don't, your mind will fill. Okay, so being empty of mind is of highest order and is to be passionately guarded. We have all seen states of action arise, and yet beyond it returns stillness. When any state of action is complete, it naturally returns to stillness. This allows integration of what arose from action, which is the natural process of maturation. If stillness and integration cannot be achieved, constant action will lead to anxiety and wild movements. Yielding to stillness makes one impartial, and all particular things fall away. Then, when it is time to die, one can be impartial to that as well. When we talk about being still, we're talking about integrating from a state of action. And when you're in a state of action, be in a state of action, like I was talking about with Melanie. You be there. You get to be there in that moment. You get to be in a state of action. Then, when you're in a state of stillness, don't lament that state of stillness and try to get active again. Be in that state of stillness. Your body, your mind, your soul, all of that is trying to integrate what happened when you were being active. When you die, and that's it. You don't stick around and say, but I'm going to miss something. I'm not going to get something done. No, you die, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with dying, but you're not going to do it until it gets done. And so be here, be active. And then there's different stages of action. Even though you might be active in a large project that's going to take months, maybe today you're active in eating. Be active in eating and then sit back and take a breath. Now you integrate and you process. And then you go to bed and you're still. Then you wake up and you exercise. And then you shower and you're still. And you do that. And you go back and forth from action, large actions to small actions. We have many, many different forms of action that we do. All of those actions are not able to be grasped. And the stillness isn't able to be grasped either. And that's what we're talking about with this 21. I mean, I went back to 16 to look at it, but because it's about that stillness. But the master keeps her mind always at one with Tao. And that's what gives her radiance. The Tao is ungraspable. How can her mind be at one with it? Because she doesn't cling to ideas. She's not trying to keep something that is ready to go. The Tao is dark and unfathomable. How can it make her radiant? Because she lets it. When she lets it keep her radiance. Because that's what she is. Just like this woman. Mary Kay.
Good morning,
Good
Mark.
morning, my dear. How are you?
Great. You know, it's so funny. I came on and I didn't jump in right away, and you picked my number 16.
Number 16.
Yeah.
Oh, well and that's my translation of 16.
Wow.
So I'll read it again and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes.
Being empty of mind is of the highest order and is to be passionately guarded. If we have all seen states of action arise, and yet beyond it returns stillness. When any state of action is complete, it naturally returns to stillness. This allows integration of what arose from action, which is the natural cycle of maturation. If stillness and integration cannot be achieved, constant action will lead to anxiety and wild movements. Yielding to stillness makes one impartial, and all particular things fall away. Then, when it's time to die, one can be impartial to that as well.
Um, my my translation is that we all lived in a chaotic world of order, and sometimes order becomes chaotic, and there's demands and demands and demands, and we just become, like nothing. And
Well, what this is talking about is really stillness. And so it's saying, like, yes, there are times where you are going to go out into the world and take some action. You're
yes,
going to go work. Your whole life is one big action, and
yes,
then there are dozens of smaller, like actions that are in the form of evolution or your maturation, and then there are smaller actions like doing the laundry,
yes,
right? And so there's all of these levels of action. After a state of action is complete, what this is saying is that in order to continue maturing on that level of action and being, you will need a state of stillness.
yes. And
And then go on.
I am achieving that level.
Yes. And that level could, like, again, when you're done doing the laundry, you sit and you become still just for a moment.
Hmm.
And then you make a cup of coffee, and you have your cup of coffee and then become still. And then you mop the floor and then become still. Maybe you get into a marriage and you have this marriage, and as the marriage sort of like builds and there's a lot of action to it, there's a stillness that comes over the both of you over time. And
Yeah,
maybe that stillness matures the relationship, and maybe one becomes still and the other doesn't, and the relationship falls apart.
it does.
But stillness is such an important aspect. And if stillness and integration, as it says in this translation, in my translation, if stillness and integration cannot be achieved, constant action will lead to anxiety and wild movements. So if you cannot achieve stillness and you continually find yourself in an active state, it will lead you to feel anxiety and to making wild choices of how to be active in your life.
And I have, and I think most of us have. And
Yeah.
when then we reach a level when we just remain still.
Yes.
And
Yielding to stillness, as it states here, makes one impartial.
yes,
All particular things fall away. And so then it doesn't matter. When you can be still, like, it doesn't matter that, like the lawn needs watering. You just made coffee and you're going to sit in stillness right now. And maybe that's just for 2 minutes, but you're going to sit in stillness and not think about the lawn. You're going to be still, and you're going to integrate that having made the coffee. And now here you are in a new state. This is why I do things called segment intentions. So every segment of the day starts with an action and ends with stillness. And for that action and for that part of the day, I will write an intention. Like before I come on here, I write the intention. I want to connect with my guests and I want to speak of the Tao. I want to stay centered. And by doing that, I lay an intention to be here and connect with you. And so if yielding and stillness, if I can achieve yielding and stillness, and if I can allow integration, then all the particular things fall away. It's not you and me, it's us. And it's not about who's listening. It's about you, me, and all of the people listening. And we all just sit here and we speak through the ether. The ether comes up with my words, and I just open my mouth and they come away. Then, if I can continue doing this in my life, when my life is complete, I will be able to die and be impartial to that as well. I don't have to be, I don't have to hold on to it. I don't have to think my life is special, my life is important, because I treated my life as if it was important by being active when I needed to be active and being still when it needed to be still. And then I became impartial to everything else.
I'm really truly working on it, and I am going to go on your website soon. And I'm going to get your quotes. And I learned a lot from you and few others here, and
Yeah.
the encouragement and the joy and the knowledge that you shared gave me gave me the courage to be who I was instead of who I had to be.
Right.
And now I'm able to be more still than ever.
Yeah. And
And
yeah, it's so important. Your stillness and your mental state and your ability to talk to others and be with others. And I know that's hard sometimes.
it is.
But when you can be still, when you can find stillness, even if it's just a moment, like when we're done here, just being quiet, holding yourself for a moment will just give you so much more energy than just moving on to the next thing.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. And I'm working on it.
You know, in our world, especially on the East Coast, moving on to the
Well,
next thing is what people do best.
yeah, we become,
Stillness is hard to find out that way.
yes. You know, you're always in a crowd. You're
That's
always
right.
with thousands and thousands of people every given day.
That's right. And
And
that's not easy.
it's not, it's very, very hard. Um, and I don't miss it. I don't miss it at all.
Yeah.
Uh, and, but I'm glad I did it. I am so glad I did it. I used to, you know, go into therapy asking why. And at one point, I decided, why am I asking the same question over and over again? And basically, there is no just answer because they're doing the same thing.
That's right.
They're doing the same.
They and that's one of the things that, the therapeutic world, I think, gets wrong, is that put and they're doing it differently today. They're
Yeah,
doing it very differently today. But, back in the day, it was just like, I am the doctor. And they took it as like, I know how to set your bones. I know how to set your life. And that's not the same. Like setting, like blunt force trauma doctor, we need that.
yeah.
Soft sciences, we do need them, but we need them in a multitude of capacities, not just being the, benevolent therapist.
We need them to advise us. We need them to share their knowledge, not in a vocabulary that is on, you know, we cannot understand. And I
Right.
had an incident last week. My uncle was in the hospital, and we missed the head doctor, and we thought that he was about to get surgery. And as we were driving home, his son and I, um, the doctor called us, and the words that came out of this man's mouth was just unbelievable. We understood, and finally he said, "The surgery is not necessary. It's not necessary." And basically gave us advice about nutrition, behavior, and the body parts, and being all aligned and connected, and he's going to be fine. He's fine already. He's just waiting for a discharge.
Yeah.
But he had to be there. He had to be treated. Um, and But there are doctors out there that are now providing open information about our body, our mind, our soul, and how it's all connected.
Yeah.
And their advice is becoming different. I am right now in therapy for my back. There is no more medication.
Good.
No more medication, because the medication was, oh my God, just it would take me 3 days just to recover, which helped
Yeah.
me at that time. It was necessary for the pain. But the therapy that I am in, sports therapy, has done wonders.
Good.
And we need doctors like that. No prescription. Just come,
Right.
and what you got to do, God forbid, you have something else, then that's something else. Uh, but I think medicine is changing, laws are changing, humanity is changing, and it's a beautiful thing. And at my age, I watch and I am so proud of it, because my generation was chaotic.
Yeah. Well, I am so glad that we got to cover emptiness and
Yeah,
stillness and integration, because
stillness
I
is,
think stillness is
yes,
such an
inter
important thing.
is so beautiful. Stillness is
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Yes.
So you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
I will, and I look
Wow.
forward to connecting again.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Love you, dear. Okay. That's it for today, folks. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. I am your host, Martin John, the Recovery Mentor. I got 21 years clean and sober, and I talk all about what it means to recover to who you are. I utilize the Tao in that every now and again, and this is my sort of my gift is in offering Tao. And if you ever see me on here doing Tao of the Day, I would love for you to pick a number between 1 and 81, come up and we can share a chapter together. I have I have a book of quotes on my site as well as my workshop on my website. If you're interested in the work that I do, if you benefit from the work I do, definitely check out. Hit me up with a tip on Venmo at @MartinJohn_Garcia. I can always use a little help in that arena. So I appreciate your time and patience. My name is Martin John, and until next time, keep recovering yourself.